"Not that name," he harshly interrupted. "You must not hamper your life with useless memories. That dream of yours may be sacred, but it belongs to the past, and a great reality confronts you. When you have fully recovered your health, your own manhood will rebel at the weakness unworthy one of our name. Rouse yourself, Oswald. Take account of our prospects. Give me your hand and say, 'Life holds something for me yet. I have a brother who needs me if I do not need him. Together we can prove ourselves invincible and wrench fame and fortune from the world.'" But the hand he reached for did not rise at his command, though Oswald started erect and faced him with manly earnestness. "I should have to think long and deeply," he said, "before I took upon myself responsibilities like these. I am broken in mind and heart, Orlando, and must remain so till God mercifully delivers me. I should be a poor assistant to you, a drag rather than a help. Deeply as I deplore it, hard as it may be for one of your temperament to understand so complete an overthrow, I yet must acknowledge my condition and pray you not to count upon me in any plans you may form. I know how this looks. I know that as your brother and truest admirer I should respond, and respond strongly, to such overtures as these. But the motive for achievement is gone. She was my all, and while I might work, it would be mechanically. The lift, the elevating thought is gone." Orlando stood a moment, studying his brother's face. Then he turned shortly about and walked the length of the room. When he came back, he took up his stand again directly before Oswald and asked, with a new note in his voice, "Did you love Edith Challoner so much as that?" A glance from Oswald's eye, sadder than any tear. "So that you cannot be reconciled?" A gesture. Oswald's words were always few. Orlando's frown deepened. "Such grief I partly understand," said he, "but time will cure it. Some day another lovely face—" "We'll not talk of that, Orlando." "No, we'll not talk of that," acquiesced the inventor, walking away again, this time to the window. "For you there's but one woman, and she's a memory." "Killed!" broke from his brother's lips. "Slain by her own hand under an impulse of wildness and terror. Can I ever forget that? Do not expect it, Orlando." "Then you do blame me?" Orlando turned, and was looking full at Oswald. "I blame your unreasonableness and your overweening pride." Orlando stood a moment, then moved towards the door. The heaviness of his step smote upon Oswald's ear and caused him to exclaim, "Forgive me, Orlando!" But the other cut him short with an imperative, "Thanks for your candour. If her spirit is destined to stand like an immovable shadow between you and me, you do right to warn me. But this interview must end all allusion to the subject. I will seek and find another man to share my fortunes." As he said this he approached suddenly, and took his papers from the other's hand. "Or—" Here he hastily retraced his steps to the door, which he softly opened. "Or," he repeated, but though Oswald listened for the rest, it did not come. While he waited, the other had given him one deeply concentrated look, and passed out. No heartfelt understanding was possible between these two men. Crossing the hall, Orlando knocked at the door of Doris' little sitting room. No answer, yet she was there. He knew it in every throbbing fibre of his body. She was there and quite aware of his presence. Of this he felt sure. Yet she did not bid him enter. Should he knock again? Never! But he would not quit the threshold, not if she kept him waiting there for hours. Perhaps she realized this. Perhaps she had meant to open the door to him from the very first. Who can tell? What avails is that she did ultimately open it, and he, meeting her soft eye, wished from his very heart that his impulse had led him another way, even if that way had been to the edge of the precipice and over. For the face he looked upon was serene, and there was no serenity in him, rather a confusion of unloosed passions fearful of barrier, and yearning tumultuously for freedom. But whatever his revolt, the secret revolt which makes no show in look or movement, he kept his ground and forced a smile of greeting. If her face was quiet, it was also lovely. Too lovely, he felt, for a man to leave it, whatever might come of his lingering. Nothing in all his life had ever affected him like it. For him there was no other woman in the past, the present, or the future, and, realizing this, taking in to the full what her affection and her trust might be to him in those fearsome days to come, he so dreaded a rebuff. He, who had been the courted of women and the admired of men ever since he could remember, that he failed to respond to her welcome and the simple congratulations she felt forced to repeat. He could neither speak the commonplace nor listen to it. This was his crucial hour. He must find support here, or yield hopelessly to the maelstrom from whose whirl he was caught. She saw his excitement and faltered back a step, a move which she regretted the next minute, for he took advantage of it to enter and close behind him the door which she would never have shut of her own accord. Then he spoke, abruptly, passionately, but in those golden tones which no emotion could render other than alluring. "I am an unhappy man, Miss Scott. I see that my presence here is not welcome, yet am sure that it would be so if it were not for a prejudice which your generous nature should be the first to cast aside in the face of the outspoken confidence of my brother, Oswald. Doris, little Doris, I love you. I have loved you from the moment of our first meeting. Not to many men is given to find his heart so late, and when he does, it is for his whole life. No second passion can follow it. I know that I am premature in saying this, that you are not prepared to hear such words from me, and that it might be wiser for me to withhold them, but I must leave Derby soon, and I cannot go until I know whether there is the least hope that you will yet lend a light to my career, or whether that career must burn itself to ashes at your feet. Oswald, nay, hear me out. Oswald lives in his memories, but I must have an active hope, a tangible expectation, if I am to be the man I was meant to be. Will you, then, coldly dismiss me? Or will you let my whole future life prove to you the innocence of my past? I will not hasten anything. All I ask is some indulgence. Time will do the rest." "Impossible," she murmured. But that was a word for which he had no ear. He saw that she was moved, unexpectedly so, that while her eyes wandered restlessly at times towards the door, they ever came back in girlish wonder, if not fascination, to his face, emboldening him so that he ventured at last to add, "Doris, little Doris, I will teach you a marvellous lesson if you will only turn your dainty ear my way. Love such as mine carries infinite treasure with it. Will you have that treasure heaped, piled before your feet? Your lips say no, but your eyes, the truest eyes I ever saw, whisper a different language. The day will come when you will find your joy in the breast of him you are now afraid to trust." And, not waiting for disclaimer or even glance of reproach from the eyes he had so wilfully misread, he withdrew with a movement as abrupt as that with which he had entered. Why, then, with the memory of this exultant hour to fend off all shadows, did the midnight find him in his solitary hangar in the moonlit woods, a deeply desponding figure again? Beside him swung the huge machine which represented a life of power and luxury. But he no longer saw it. It called to him with many a creak and a quiet snap, sounds to start his blood and fire his eye a week, nay, a day ago, but he was deaf to this music now. The call went unheeded. The future had no further meaning for him, nor did he know or think whether he sat in light or in darkness, whether the woods were silent about him or panting with life and sound. His demon had gripped him again, and the final battle was on. There would never be another. Mighty as he felt himself to be, there were limits even to his capacity for endurance. He could sustain no further conflict. How then would it end? He never had a doubt himself, yet he sat there. Around him in the forest the night owls screeched, and innumerable small things without a name scurried from lair to lair. He heard them not. Above, the moon rode, flecking the deepest shadows with the silver from her half-turned urn, but none of the soft and healing drops fell upon him. Nature was no longer a goddess, but an avenger; light a revealer, not a solace; darkness the only boon. Nor had time a meaning. From early eve to early morn he sat there, and knew not if it were 1 hour or 12. Earth was his no longer. He roused when the sun